Well, good morning, everyone, or really, good afternoon. I'm Rabbi Sanford Axelrod. This is Cantor Jessica Hutchings. And we are here to be your companions as we celebrate a beautiful life, as we mourn the passing of this beautiful life. We'll be listening to songs that were meaningful to her, some recollections that will bring her to life, and to be here in the sanctuary, where when I look right over there, that's where she would sit. And so I see her. Go ahead, if you would, to open up to the program. We come together to celebrate the life of Suzie, to mourn her passing. And so gather with family and friends, we have come to share our memories and to bring to support to her family. We're grateful for Suzie's love that united us in life and which death cannot sever, for her companionship that we shared along life's path and which continues through the tenderness of memory, for the gifts of her heart and mind that brought us joy and happiness is now a precious remembrance. We remind ourselves that we derive our strength through community and the power of memory itself, and to the melodies and the psalms of tradition remind us that songs well written and words well said tie and bind one generation to the next.
Upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me, somewhere over the rainbow. Birds fly over the rainbow. Why then, oh, why can't I? If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh, why can't I?
From Psalms, I turn my eyes to the mountains. From where will my help come? My help comes from God, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your guardian will not slumber. Look, the guardian of Israel neither slumber nor sleeps. For God is your protection, a guardian at your right hand. By day the sun will not strike you, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your life. God guards your going and coming, now and forever. God, who may abide in your house, who may dwell in your holy mountain?
Those who are upright, who do justly, who speak the truth within their hearts,
Who do not slander others or wrong them or bring shame upon them.
who scorn the lawless but honor those who revere God, who give their word but come what may, do not retract.
Who do not exploit others, who do not take bribes. Those who live in this way shall never be shaken.
ביצני על מי מנוחות ינעלני נפשי ישובב ינחני ומגל לצדק ינחני ומגל לצדק למען שמו גם כי אלך בגץ המוות לא אירא כי אתה עמדי שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני תערוך לפניי שולחן נגד צורריי דשנת בשמן ראשי כוסי רוויה ach tov chesed yirdefunni kol yemei chayai v'shavti beveit Adonai le'orach yamim Adonai roi lo echsar Adonai roi lo echsar
Page 3, we read together the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
A season is set for everything, a time for every experience under heaven, a time for being born,
And a time for dying,
a time for planting,
and a time for uprooting the planted,
a time for slaying,
and a time for healing,
a time for tearing down,
a time for building up,
a time for weeping,
a time for laughing,
a time for wailing,
and a time for dancing.
It is a fearful thing to love. What death can touch.
Can I do it? I'm gonna do a cappella.
It is a fearful thing to love. What death can touch. A fearful thing to love. kiss brings painful joy. Ooh. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing to love. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing to love, to love, to love, to love, to love what death has touched.
This last responsive reading talks about that gentle dance between memory, missing, and mourning. We're here to celebrate her life, but part of the ability to celebrate someone's life is to remember them. And when we really, really care about them, we miss them. And because they're not physically with us, we mourn them. So there'll be days ahead, holidays, holy days, birthdays, celebrations of all kind, and we'll look over and her presence will be felt, and we'll miss her. And we'll remember earlier days, younger days, and then we'll mourn her. And some days it'll just be sad and we mourn her, and it'll lead to a memory, and we'll remember her and then miss her. Round and round it goes until, hopefully, with the passage of time, what we hope is what we're left with, which is the power of memory. And so you, the congregation, your words are, we remember her. At the rising of the sun and at its going down, we remember her. At the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember her. At the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of spring, at the blueness of the skies and in the warmth of summer, at the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn, at the beginning of the year and when it ends. As long as we live, Suzie too will live, for she is now a part of us as, when we are weary and in need of strength, when we are lost and sick at heart, when we have joy we crave to share, when we have decisions that are difficult to make, when we have achievements that are based on hers. As long as we live, Suzie too will live, for she is now a part of us as we remember her. So we begin the process of remembrance. Suzie was very particular, an inclination that perhaps her life here on earth was drawing to a near. She was very particular about what songs she wanted, what some of the readings would be. And so we hope to pay tribute to her life throughout this morning in identifying those things and celebrating her life. So dear cousins, Lori and Cheryl, come on up. They're going to share with you a few recollections and a song or two that would have been meaningful to her.
Susan Frances Chenin, to my brother Alan, sister Lori, and to me, she was always cousin Suzie. Our dad called her Sookie, and he always felt a very special connection to her, and she to him. Suzie was immensely talented and creative, and to Lori, she could do anything and move mountains.
The night before my wedding, I realized I'd forgotten to pick up the dress for my friend coming in from out of town. Suzie called Mel Eyre at home, and she met us at the bridal shop to give us the dress. Suzie could move mountains.
She had a beautiful smile that could light up a room and an infectious laugh. As a young adult, when I would go out with Aunt Irene and Uncle Joe, some of their friends assumed I was Suzie. I guess because we both had dark hair, but I always thought it was a huge compliment to be compared to my cousin, who I thought was so beautiful. And as we got older, the age difference between us dwindled, and Lori and I formed special bonds with our cousins Suzie and Ellen. We enjoyed visits together and first cousins retreats, supporting each other through various challenges that we faced.
After Bob died, Suzie, Ellen, and Cheryl flew into Tucson and took me to a desert retreat, which brought me such comfort. And when we found out Ellen was sick, Suzie, Cheryl, and I immediately flew into Cleveland for less than 24 hours. We needed to comfort each other. Suzie was someone we loved and trusted. She made us feel safe, and we still remember sitting in the kitchen at the house on 6th Street with Suzie armed with ice and a sewing needle and thread so that she could pierce our ears. Of course, I tried to emulate Suzie and used the same technique to pierce a friend's ear. Unfortunately, without Suzie's expertise, there was a lot more pain and blood involved. I was no Suzie.
From the outside looking in, Suzie looked like she led a charmed life, but her life was definitely more complicated than that. In the 1970s, Suzie was very much into decorating glass, and I truly think that her artwork was representative of her inner turmoil. I remember seeing intricately designed vases and goblets that would have windy, dark paths that were highlighted with gold and gems. Her life was filled with many twists and turns, but also shined with moments of true brilliance. Last year, as Rabbi said, Suzie began planning her celebration of life, and one of her final requests was for us to sing a hymn that had meaning to her. While not traditional, this song epitomizes how she faced challenges, both emotionally and physically, with amazing grace. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did the grace appear, the hour I first believed.
desert while we sow in tears today. We pray that everyone will find joy in sharing stories and remembering our sweet cousin Suzie. May your memory forever be a blessing, and may you finally be at peace.
Thank you, ladies. That was a beautiful tribute in words and in song. So I'm going to share with you the official obituary just to kind of cover some of the background. Susan Suzie Chenin passed away on October 21st, 2021 at home, surrounded by family and friends, shortly after being diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. She was born August 28, 1949 in Cleveland, Ohio, and moved to Las Vegas in 1951 when her dad, Dr. Joseph Chenin, was transferred to Nellis Air Force Base, where he was stationed during the Korean War. She graduated from Las Vegas High School in 1967 and was a proud Las Vegas resident for over 70 years. After studying at Arizona State University and Boston University, she returned home where she became very involved in the Las Vegas community. Suzie started her career in sales working for the Las Vegas Sun. Subsequently, she became both a residential and commercial real estate agent, broker, and appraiser at Chenin and Associates. She was also involved in hotel and casino marketing and numerous Las Vegas organizations, including the Jewish community. And she was a creative entrepreneur who had many talents, including a calligraphy business. She loved animals and was very devoted to her pups. She especially loved her family, but we put the pups first. Okay. She worked hard, loved to party and travel, had the cutest giggle, and the most infectious smile. She was preceded in death by her parents, Dr. Joe Chenin and Irene Chenin, originally of Cleveland, Ohio. John Blink, the love of her life, may he rest in peace, partner and best friend for over 25 years, Las Vegas. Aunts, uncles, cousins, and a great niece of all of California, Nevada, and Ohio. She's survived by 2 children whom she loved dearly, 2 grandchildren whom she adored, her stepmom, Sandra Simon Chenin, her loving brother, Dr. Stephen Chenin, married to Linda, and nephews, Dr. David Chenin, married to Melissa, Danny Chenin, married to Angela, and Dylan Chenin, all of Henderson, and Doug, I want to call him Dougie, Doug, but he's a doctor now, I can't do that. Married to Armida and niece Darla, who's in California, great nieces and nephews of Henderson, and first cousins, Lori, Chenin Frankel, Alan Chenin, and Cheryl Chenin Webb. Lori and Cheryl, of course, just sang this beautiful song, and many cousins of California, Nevada, and Ohio. You think she had enough family? Who here is not related? Who isn't related to her, right? She will be deeply missed by everyone who knew her, those whose lives she touched, including her companion, Barney Weber of Las Vegas, Nevada. We're going to have more of a private family ceremony later on at a later date, but here we celebrate her life. And so I'd like to call up the next group of speakers, Diane Quinn, a longtime family friend, and Vicki Vohe, friend of Suzie since they were 2 years old. All right. We flipped a coin, so Diane, come on up. When you speak, you don't have to wear the mask. When you come up, you may want to use one of the handrail if you're. Yeah, there's some handrails there. We don't want any. We have doctors in the house, though. All right. Yeah. No, hopefully not.
Thank you. This is just unbelievable that this is happening today because it all happened so soon. But it gives us a chance to reminisce about old times. I met Suzie at John C. Fremont Junior High School, and we were 14 years old. And the one thing I remember doing is going home and telling my mom I met a new girlfriend, and she was so cute and so much fun. Okay. Anyway, Suzie was talented and everything you wanted in one package. There was a assembly at Fremont. They broke up into groups of 5, all the girls' PE classes, and they were asked to put together a dance. And each one would compete among their own class and then move up to the assembly. Well, Suzie's group of 5 won the whole shebang at the assembly. It was a rendition of Cats, decades before the play. They were all dressed in little cat outfits with tails and whiskers and ears. And it was just a perfect little dance. I have another friend, Kathy, that I met the same year, and the things we said about the Chenins, there was the perfect family, and the perfect mother, and the perfect father, and the perfect kids, and the perfect dog. I remember their dog would run by the TV, and his collar would turn the television set on. She had the perfect closet with all the shoes of every color, and she was always coordinated. And we didn't stay friends forever. We came together for a few years, then we would part, and then would come together again. One of the times we came together was when the Rebels basketball team was at their peak. And when you got invited, Suzie called me and says, "We want you to go to a Rebels game with us," me and someone else, a girlfriend. And we get there, and with Suzie, you don't just get good seats, you're in the box. And we had more fun that night, and got to meet some of the Rebel players, and we just had a wonderful evening. And it was her birthday right around then, too, and I think she was dating Milton at that time. And what did he get her for her birthday? A billboard. Who gets billboards for their birthday? But that was Suzie. Up to that point, everything in her life was charmed. She was successful as a realtor. I knew her boss, and her new broker she went with at that point, and I overheard him talking to a coworker how Suzie had brought this great deal when she came to join his company. And that was hers. I mean, every time you turned around, something positive like that was going on. And I was so proud of her. She was young, dynamic, just positive. But one of the things that happen is when we lose our mothers, we lose a part of us. And with me, it was traumatic, and it took me like a year to move on. But with Suzie, it seemed to be almost catastrophic because she never was the same again. It's ironic and strange. I did get to know John, and I was glad to know both of them and happy to be around them. John was struggling because he was changing careers and wasn't sure where to go. But when he died, it was another piece that was taken from her, and she had to worry about getting her life together. And I spent a lot of time with her the next year. I would go over on Saturdays every week for a year. But I watched her kind of piece her life back together, and it looked like things were going to work, and I was very proud of her. When she reunited closely with Lori, and Bernie, and they moved in and supported her. I felt so good because I felt like I didn't have to worry anymore. She was happy around both of them, said they did nothing but laugh and got along just great, and that was a good feeling, and I was glad to see her so happy. And I hope she's feeling happiness now. We all love and miss her, and we'll think about her forever. Thanks. Yes, it's that season. I need those railings, I think. Thanks.
All right, Vicki. Yeah, use the railing. Right over here. Hold the microphone close.
My name is Vicki Grafman Yohe. I met Suzie when we were about 3 years old, shortly after my family moved to Las Vegas. I don't think Steve was walking yet. Our parents met at the Young Couples Club at Temple Beth Shalom. Through them, Suzie and I became fast friends. My mother and Irene, Suzie's mother, were best friends and played mahjong together. My parents, Fred and Helen Grafman, traveled with Suzie's parents, Joe and Irene, and had some wonderful times together. I have happy memories of playing in a wading pool with Suzie and Steve in their backyard on San Ynez. My family lived 1 block away on Van Patten Place. We had family barbecues together. I seem to remember a dog named Hetchy. I loved that dog. Ear piercing was mentioned by Suzie's cousins. I had forgotten this. Suzie pierced my ears without my mother's permission. Suzie also encouraged me to shave my legs, and I got in trouble for both. Suzie and I went all through school together, including Las Vegas High School. The first time I got drunk, only the first of 2 times in my life, was at a New Year's party that Suzie gave when we were seniors in high school. We had a lot of fun together over the years, including attending reunions of our class of 1967 from Las Vegas High School. Our families shared many milestone events. My parents, my older sister Merle and her husband, and my late husband and I attended Suzie's first wedding. My parents and I also attended Suzie's son's bar mitzvah. Shortly after I moved back to Las Vegas, after living in San Diego for 32 years, Suzie, Ruth Pearson Urban, and I resumed our long friendship, and we started going to monthly lunches together. Then COVID hit, and we stopped going out. I was told in Suzie's final directives that I was among those who she requested be at her celebration of life. I'm honored to be here and deeply touched by her request. Suzie was a lifelong, good and loyal friend, and I will miss her.
All right, Steve and Linda Chenin.
No, as long as I have the rail. Thank you.
Wow, I think everything was already said. Suzie's daughter wanted us to share this about her mom. My mom lit up every room she walked into, and everyone she met was a friend. She had a warmth that drew people to her. She was truly such a bright light. When I was a little girl, Sundays were house cleaning days, and she'd blast music. Stevie Nicks from Fleetwood Mac was one of her favorites, and she would open all the doors and windows and dance around being silly. That's what I remember most. Nothing was a chore, rather an adventure, an opportunity to have fun and be free. We loved the old original movie Auntie Mame and watched it all the time. My mom embodied the same spirit as Auntie Mame. She was creative, eclectic, witty, adventurous, and larger than life. Live, 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 live fully, presently, and love with all your heart. No judgments, no prejudices. Through every experience, both good and challenging, a lesson is learned. And that's what makes life the ride worth taking. It's what makes life meaningful and beautiful. She taught me that it's important to blaze your own trail, live authentically, and not to worry about what anyone else thinks. To dance more, sing loudly, and love every moment of it. That freedom is something that you gift yourself. I think of her laugh, that giggle, both mischievous and innocent. That's who she was, and I'm so grateful that she was my mom. I want to take this time to thank our cousin, Lori Chenin Frankel. This is why we put this picture up, because it didn't make it into the video. We didn't have it when we made the video slideshow. Growing up, Lori always looked up to Suzie and admired her immensely. So it was only natural that Suzie was the matron of honor in her wedding. Lori always included Suzie and our family in everything she did. Lori included her every year for Passover Seder, for her annual Hanukkah party. She also included Suzie in the trip she planned to Cleveland to see Cousin Ellen when she was really sick. No matter what it was, Lori always included Suzie, even if it was just to get her out of the house. This is especially true during the past 6 years after the love of her life, John Blink, passed away. Suzie was so devastated. Lori was always there for her, to support her, to give her a shoulder to cry on, or whatever Suzie needed. Lori would even go to the bank with Suzie to make sure she had funds in her bank account. Lori was the one that Suzie would call if she needed anything or if she was in any kind of trouble. And she did get in trouble every now and then. Lori and Scott would always be there, and they would always show up. 3 years ago, when Steve and I were out of town, Suzie was hospitalized because her oxygen levels were so low. No one else was there for her. So Lori stayed by Suzie's side the entire time, holding her hand, while also trying to make plans for some physical therapy and where Suzie would live because she would need some assistance to get back on her feet. Lori and Scott had a lot to deal with that week, and it still amazes me today all that they had to go through in helping Suzie, but they did it, and they did it lovingly. Steve and I are blessed to have Lori in our lives, as well as so many amazing cousins, siblings, and friends. Steve and I cannot thank Lori enough for the special bond that she shared with Suzie, both as a little girl growing up, and that strong bond she continued to share until Suzie's last breath. So a big thank you to Lori and Scott and Cheryl, Alan, Judy, Barney, and all the cousins and friends that were always there for Suzie and are here for us now. Now it's my turn. So I didn't meet Suzie in these early years that Vicki and Diane talked about. It was 1974. Steve and I were already engaged when I was about to meet Suzie for the first time. I was so nervous. We were going to meet her at the Hotel del Coronado in San Diego. I was told we were going to be playing tennis. So I imagined this cute high society girl in her fancy tennis outfit at this fancy hotel. I was wondering how I was going to fit in with someone like Suzie, coming from a completely different background. As soon as I met her, all my fears vanished. Suzie was so friendly, fun, and so sweet. She totally embraced me, and we couldn't wait to be sisters. When we arrived at the hotel, the tennis that we were going to play happened to be one of Atari's first computer games called Pong, and she was already playing it on the TV screen in the lounge. We laughed about the tennis. We had such a fun time, and we have been good friends and sisters ever since. But what I remember most about Suzie was how hard she worked. She used to drive around selling ads for the Las Vegas Sun. In the summer, it often was over 110 degrees. Suzie would come to our house after a long day to pick up her daughter. She was so tired that she would sit down on the couch to rest for a moment, but she would be so exhausted she would not be able to get up. Suzie worked just as hard when she started in real estate, and she'd be driving around, flipping through the pages of the MLS listings that were in a big book, not accessible in the car by a computer yet, and before mobile phones, laptops, or tablets were even available. Even as technology advanced, Suzie worked just as hard. She was always out there hustling. Suzie had the biggest heart, especially when it came to animals. She loved all animals, but she really had a soft spot for dogs. She loved her dogs. She would often take in dogs that her adult children couldn't keep, or dogs that were stray, and she would love them just the same as her own. I have so much more to say about Suzie, but I'll only say this. She has had an amazing life, and through all the ups and downs, one thing has stayed constant. Suzie never gave up. She worked hard, and she was always fun, so sweet, and she kept her great sense of humor. Whether Suzie and I were trying to get a big Thanksgiving turkey out of the oven decades ago while laughing so hard that we almost dropped it, or dancing on the deck of a cruise ship just 4 years ago, Suzie sure knew how to have fun. Suzie had a deep love for her family, her friends, and she had a sweetness about her and a love for living life. She truly lived life to the fullest. As a matter of fact, one of the last things that Suzie said just days before she passed away was, "I've had a beautiful life." This is what I want to remember the most about my sister Suzie.
I want to thank you all for taking time out of your lives, time away from your families, to be with my family. Suzie Q. When I think about Suzie, there are many random thoughts and memories that immediately come to mind. I'd like to share a few of them with you. She was beautiful, smart, strong, loyal, and vivacious. I often referred to her as my little big sister. She was a big sister, the best that anybody could have. When we were little, according to my mom, she would often dress me up like one of her dolls and make me swing with her in the backyard, and then parade around the neighborhood for fun. Suzie was always lots of fun. We played lots of games in the family car on our many trips to Laguna Beach. We also had so much fun playing at the beach, splashing in the waves, and going to many of the art exhibits and art festivals with our parents. Suzie was very social, and our dad was pretty protective of her. One time, one of the really hot, popular guys from high school came over to see Suzie. Dad answered the door, and the boy asked to speak to Suzie. Dad told him, "She's not here." She was. And then he told him he wasn't allowed to talk to her ever, and to never come back, and slam the door in his face. Ouch. Another time, Suzie was in middle school, Fremont Junior High, and she was in her bedroom talking on her little pink Princess telephone. Dad came in and told her to hang up, but she was so deeply involved in the conversation that she didn't. He said one more time, "Hang up." She didn't. So Dad walked over to the wall and pulled on the phone cord, and instead of the phone cord popping out of the wall jack popped out through the drywall and stripped all the way up to the ceiling. So there was Susie's little pink Princess phone dangling in the sky. Growing up, we did have arguments like most siblings did. As we got older, though, we argued less and less. By the time we were in middle school and high school, we had very few arguments. This was bad for our parents, because when we started working together and started covering for each other, occasionally our parents would go out for dinner and then go out gambling at one of the casinos for a little bit of fun. They would leave us alone to watch each other. Some of those times, Suzie would call her girlfriends to come over and to listen to music and swim in the pool. This was totally fine with me because her girlfriends were cute, and I'd have some of my friends over too, and neither of us would tell our parents. Although sometimes we really did argue when they were out. We would even occasionally call the police on each other. The police operator would ask, "Where are your parents?" We told him, "They're out gambling." Yikes. Fortunately, it was a very small town, so that the police operators knew my parents and or were patients of Dr. Joe, Papa Joe. I can envision them. They probably smiled, were shaking their heads, and luckily ignored our calls, never showed up, and told us to stop arguing. In spite of occasional disagreements, we really did have each other's back. One day in middle school, Fremont Junior High, a friend of mine cut in line in front of me at lunch. We argued and decided it was best to settle the argument with a fight after school. So that day, after school, we went next door to the back lot of the church. Remember that? The church. And so while we were rolling around the ground, wrestling, slugging each other, I remember my sister jumping in, kicking at him, and hitting him with her notebook. In reality, though, her notebook and feet were kicking me too, but I thought, that's okay. She was just trying to help her little brother. Later, when we were both in high school, she made it perfectly clear to the juniors and seniors that to leave me out of their hazing tricks or pranks that are done to underclassmen. That's why I was able to avoid the infamous clippers. And these were juniors and seniors that if they caught you, they would shave your head, literally, assault and battery. But they'd shave your head. Although lately, I think they might have caught up with me somewhat. On a serious note, though, I'm not sure if all of you know that Suzie was in a terrible accident, car accident, right before her first year of college. Her right leg was badly fractured, crushing part of the femur. She was in a full body cast, in a hospital bed, in our family room, front family room, because that's the only place the bed would fit, for a few months. On the day she was supposed to get out of the cast and get a walking cast, I was at school. A friend of mine stopped me in the hallway and said, "Steve, why is there an ambulance in front of your house?" I said, "What?" I immediately left, ran home, and when I got home, I found out that she did get out of her body cast, got into a walking cast, but then tripped over the dog in our kitchen, refractured her leg, and had to go back into body cast for a few more months. One day during those awful months, our dad was at work and mentioned this to one of his patients. The patient just happened to have a lot of influence at the Desert Inn Hotel, and there just happened to be a young country singer by the name of Glenn Campbell who was performing there. The patient asked Glenn Campbell for a big favor to cheer her up. So that night, for real, Glenn Campbell and some of his band members showed up at her house. He sang several songs to her, one of which was his 1968 hit song, Wichita Lineman. He also gave Suzie a big kiss on the cheek, which is a beautiful gesture. I'll never forget her big smile and how happy that made her. To say that Suzie had resiliency that most people will never had is a vast understatement. She was able to bounce back from those terrible months, go to college, majoring in pre-law and business. She was a great salesperson and sold many ads to the hotels while working for the Las Vegas Sun. At a certain point, she decided to get involved in real estate. And as I recall, she passed her real estate exam on her first try, which is a pretty big achievement because many people needed 2 or 3 tries to get their license. As many of you know, she and John Blink would frequently go to Sedona, Arizona for the uplifting power of its vortex meditation sites, as well as hiking in the beautiful red rock formations and enjoying the beautiful vistas. She and John also had a small place just outside of St. George, Utah, where they would watch many sunrises and sunsets together. That's the way I want to remember my sister. Beautiful lady, looking out over beautiful sunrises and sunsets. Before I forget, though, I want to thank Barney, my brother-in-law, a lot for all the wonderful things he's done over the past few years to make Suzie's life easier. They had become good friends, trusted each other, and had a special bond. Thanks, Barney. Suzie, beautiful, smart, strong, loyal, fun-loving, vivacious, my little Suzie Q.
glasses. They belong to one of the speakers. They're Lori's? Okay, we'll auction them off.
They already ended up in Lost and Found once today.
Oh, okay. All right. Great tributes, right? Who put together the video? Who gets credit? Thank you. That was terrific. That was terrific. Everyone who spoke, terrific. I think it would have made her very, very happy. So, I just want to add a couple little thoughts. None of us is one thing. And that's the amazing part of life. And when you look at Suzie's life, she was so many amazing things. She was vivacious, she was pretty, she had so many friends, she survived adversity, she was resilient, and she just kept morphing and changing and adapting. And along the way, she made so many wonderful friends, and she had love in her life. And so we may be sad that she's not physically with us, but we do indeed celebrate her life. Because if we were to ask ourselves, would we rather have lived our life without her? The answer would be no. So you're Suzie Q, this beautiful lady. May she continue to shine light in your lives. And when you remember her for the person that she was, that brought joy to this world, and joy to each and every one of your lives. And in turn, when things got a little rough for her, you were there for her. And that is so important. You do it out of love, and that's what family's about. That's what friends are about. And so all of these things are a mix, not just one thing, but many. And so we say, Zichrona Levracha, may her memory be for a blessing, and that blessing is all of you and your ability to remember a life well lived. Amen. We rise now for El Malei Rachamim and for Kaddish on pages 6 and 7.
El Malei Rachamim Shochen Bamromim Hamatzei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Hashchina Im Kedoshim Udarim Kezar Harakia Mazirim Et Nishmat Shana Shalcha Leolama Ba'arachamim Yastirea B'seter K'nofav Leolamim V'yitror B'yitror HaChaim Es Nishmata Adonai Hu Nachalata V'tanuach b'shalom al mishkava v'nomar Amen.
Together, Yit Gadol v'Yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah v'Alma Divrach Yerutei v'Yamlich Malchutei v'Chayechon v'Yomechon v'Chayedechol Beit Yisrael Bagala b'Zman Kari v'Yamru Amen Yeheshmei Rabbah Mevorach Le'olam Omeil Maya Yit Barach v'Yishtabach v'Yit Ba'ar v'Yitramam v'Yitnaseh v'Yit Adar v'Yitaleh v'Yitalal Shemei Dekusha B'Richu Leila Min Kol Birchata v'Shirata Tush Bechata v'Nechamata Damiram Bialma v'Yamru Amen Yehishlam Rabbah Min Shammai v'Chaim Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Ose shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, and so we ask that you grant perfect rest and your sheltering presence to Suzie, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in the shadow of your wings, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. On behalf of the family, we thank everyone for being here. Thank you to Roberta, to Eddie, to Cantor, everyone who had a part in making this happen. And we ask you to stay and make your way back. Our Shamus Dell is opening the back double doors, and the family has provided some wonderful refreshments so that we continue to share beautiful stories about Suzie and the life that she lived. As this concludes our ceremony, thank you all so much for being here. We'll see you in the social hall.